I sold a empty Mac computer box for like $60 on eBay, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. You need to stop buying into the idea that having multiple income streams is a good thing, because at the end of the day, if you have multiple crappy income streams, you just have crappy income. I got a pair of shoes returned to me that had coffee spilled all over them. But I mean, in my eyes, it's just part of the business. I came to the realization that over the past like 7 years, I've just built a glorified job, and I need to figure out how to not be working so many hours. I think that the most expensive pair of shoes that I found at a thrift store was like a pair of Christian Louboutins that I paid $18 for, and they sold for.
What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. Today we have Dalton on the channel from Dealing with Dalton on his YouTube channel. Thanks so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, so give us a brief intro. What's your whole story? How'd you get started? That type of thing.
Sure. So, I got started. Well, first off, I sell primarily shoes on Amazon and eBay. Little bit of a variation now that we've been doing Amazon over the past year or so, but still primarily shoes. Got my start by going to like garage sales, thrift stores, that kind of thing, looking for just about anything to resell online. Probably the same origin story that most people in our space have. Started selling on eBay, strictly garage sale finds, evolved into thrift store finds, and for the bulk of my reselling career, I was really just thrift store, flea market, pre-owned shoes, $10 buy cost, flipping to $30 to $50 dollars on average, and that was the business model. Over the past year or so, we've tried to diversify for many different reasons. I'm sure we'll dive into some of those in the podcast, but diversify into more brand new inventory that got us into Amazon, and we've been doing Amazon for about a year now, and it's pretty much the main focus right now. Everything else, we definitely don't sell used anymore. Amazon's the main focus for us at the moment.
Awesome. And the shoe stuff, I started selling shoes. So you started with thrift before the shoes? You didn't start like you were a sneakerhead and you started selling that stuff, or are you a sneakerhead? Is that what drew you to that?
I wouldn't necessarily call myself a sneakerhead, but I definitely have an appreciation for shoes. I definitely have shoes that I consider nice shoes in my personal collection. Definitely don't have a huge personal collection or anything, but I wasn't necessarily a sneakerhead beforehand. I was flipping anything and everything from the thrift store, and shoes just made the most sense. I felt like I could get the most of them as opposed to some of the other categories that I liked selling in. Shoes was the most consistent, and I just really wanted to build a more streamlined process for the whole business instead of just kind of waking up and guessing how my day's going. Selling in one category, I can really give myself like a more of a structured day, a to-do list, and make it feel more like a business, and have, systems in place such as, inventory, photography, listing. Everything just flows better in one single category, and shoes is what made sense for me.
And the shipping for shoes is awesome. You just throw up in one little thing. That's the most streamlined thing you can get. So 100%. Talk a little bit about that. So obviously you said, the pictures and stuff. Do you recommend people that one category to start? Because I think people just recommend all this different stuff, but being super niche as it starts is probably a pretty good strategy when people are sourcing stuff and that type of thing. Is that what you kind of recommend to people?
I'm kind of 50-50 on this. I think that once someone finds a category that they enjoy and have access to in terms of sourcing, then yes, I think that the earlier you niche down, especially selling on like a platform like eBay or Poshmark or Mercari, where everything's stored locally, and you're doing every single bit of the process yourself, I definitely do think the earlier you niche down, the better. But like, just getting started, or if someone's listening to this and they're just like a part-time hobby seller, like I think that just kind of just doing what works best. If you don't see yourself having, hundreds or thousands of units in inventory, and you just enjoy going out treasure hunting, like, then sure, sell everything. But if your aspiration is to like build it into a business that everything is, repeatable, the earlier you niche down, the better.
We got John.
Pretty sweet. Did you start with a 9 to 5, or were you always a full-time reseller?
No, I was a server slash bartender. So I never had a real 9 to 5, but I did have a full-time job before I got started.
Interesting. So were you just trying to make some extra money, or did you think you weren't sure what you want to do, or kind of how did you come to this place?
It didn't start by having extra money as the like ambition or the reasoning behind it. Obviously that was like a byproduct, but more or less it was just kind of an interest, I guess. My parents run a restaurant. They've always been entrepreneurial, and it's always been something that I have gravitated towards. I just never really had a vehicle for it. And I just remember one day at my serving job, I was at the side station, and one of my coworkers, who's now one of my best friends, but I didn't really know him at the time. I just overheard him talking about flipping football cleats at Ross, and he was going to Ross after work to see if he could find some football cleats, and it just like it caught my attention. I was like, I kind of cut into the conversation. I was like, hey, let's talk about this. What are you talking about here? And that is what led me into looking into things on YouTube, seeing how other people are doing their reselling businesses. I think the first real YouTuber that I consumed all of their content is Rally Roots. They were doing garage sales, so that was what felt natural to me, and I didn't really do much. I obviously wasn't serving in the morning time on Friday and Saturday, so perfect time to go garage selling, and that's how I got started. And it was more so just circling back. It was more so just like an interest in like the entrepreneurial space, and then the money was just kind of a byproduct.
What about the YouTube? How quickly did you start that when you started the reselling?
Um, I want to say I was reselling for like a a year, if
Pretty.
that, 6 months to a year before I started uh, making content about it. Um, and if you scroll all the way back on Instagram, which is the first place I um, started posting things socially, you'd see that I was all over the place. I definitely wasn't just selling shoes. I think the first post that I ever posted was I sold a empty Mac computer box for like $60 on eBay. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I had to make that Instagram post. And then if you scroll up, it takes like a few months, and it's just like you start seeing more shoe pictures, and then it's just all shoes.
How does that perform on YouTube, this split between garage selling and then the shoe stuff? Because the only reason I asked that is I used to watch garage selling stuff before I even did reselling. And then I'll have people today come up to me and be like, hey, do you see these people that do this type of stuff or whatever? And I'm like, that's kind of entertaining content and
Yeah.
educational. It's a form. I guess Gary Vee kind of started that, right? But like
Yeah.
it fits both criteria. So do you see a difference in how well the content performs of, shoes or garage selling?
Um, YouTube's interesting. I don't know if you guys have like looked on my channel recently, but YouTube has got put way on the back burner for us. About 7-ish months ago, we just had our first child in January. So like leading up to that, we were kind of discussing what was taking priority in the business, because we were kind of just like all over the place. We had a ton of different streams of income, which sounds like a great thing to have, but when you're, trying to balance work and life, it's we decided that it's almost better to just have one thing that is just our bread and butter, and then once that scales up to the point where we have time and energy to focus on bringing in extra income streams, then we can maybe branch out. So YouTube got put on the back burner. We initially tried hiring out the editing and the thumbnails and all that, which was great, but I still had to go out and source for the content. And the reason I bring all that up is the best performing. There's two ways to go about YouTube as a reseller. You can either do the how to style tutorials for beginners or advanced or intermediate, or you can go the entertainment route, which is more so sourcing. People just find the entertainment in more of a vlog style, going out and just seeing what you can find at a thrift store. Both of them are very valid options to pursue. If you go the how-to route, you'll notice that like when you post something, you're not going to get any views, but then if you check back in 2 years later, you've got 20, 40, 50,000 views on that video. If you go the education or the entertainment route, the thrift with me's, the sourcing videos, you're going to get a spike at the beginning and then it's just going to kind of die off. So I think that the best performing stuff initially, if you want that high of like you got a 1 out of 10, is pursuing the entertainment route. And that's kind of what we did. I started the Into the Sneakerverse series, which the reason for that was I wanted to try to bridge the gap between reseller and maybe people that are just into shoes or people that don't really care about the reselling side of things. Because if you're only selling to the reselling community, your options are kind of small. So you kind of need to broaden it on the entertainment aspect. So we're just trying to get in people from all sorts of backgrounds, and it's just a lot of work. That series was going out and filming multiple times a week, and the more we went out and filmed multiple times a week, that was taking away from the part of the business that was actually producing the most income. So right now we are focusing more on, every now and then I'll post like a educational video, a how-to video, a beginner's guide, and really just waiting for sponsorships to come in to make sure that even if the video doesn't perform well, there's a sponsorship on the back end that pays for my time.
Yep.
So that's the avenue that I'm taking YouTube right now. I hope all that rambling answered some of your question.
No, that was great. Yeah. It makes, I wouldn't have even thought that, I guess, of just, I guess you're, it didn't make as much money doing the YouTube, or you didn't see a future in like, okay, I'm going to get rich off this YouTube thing. I'd rather focus on like X business that I'm working on instead. Because I think a lot of people probably think the reverse of like, well, I'm just going to keep ripping the YouTube. We can put the business on the back burner a little bit. But you thought the opposite of that.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think that YouTube couldn't have been that. Mm-hmm. My thought process was I need to go all in on one or the other. I can either go all in on finding more profitable product, or I can go all in on making better videos, because both of them were full-time jobs. If I wanted one of them to be the driving force of our family's income, I needed to take one of them to the next level instead of chasing both of them. And a lot of our income from social media was coming from TikTok, and that was one of the most time-consuming things, because you got to post almost daily. Is what you don't have to. Don't get me wrong. If you post one really good video and it performs great, then that's fine. But what worked best for me was to just get as many at bats as I could on the platform, and that is what produced the most income. So TikTok was very time consuming, and then on top of that, 1 to 2 YouTube videos a week, very, very time consuming. So I definitely could see the social media being being the main thing. I mean, we had everything going for it. Like TikTok was making money, YouTube was making money, sponsorships were coming in, we had affiliate revenue coming in. I just had to make the hard decision on which one do I think has more potential. And I think the reselling has more potential.
Yeah. Well, is there a moment that happened? I like getting into like the psychological aspect of this stuff. So did you just like wake up one moment and you're like, okay, we've got to make a decision, or was it slowly over time? Because I'm sure a lot of people are in between, like the 9 to 5, am I reselling, or, should I do this business or this business? Like what can you kind of speak on there of somebody that might be going through a similar thing of like, oh, I don't even know what to pick right now. I'm juggling 50 different things.
Yeah. I think that if you're juggling 50 different things and you are stressed about it, or feel like you don't have one thing, like the 80-20 rule is what comes to mind. Like if you don't have your 80% thing and it feels like you just have a bunch of 20% things scattered across, like you need to stop buying into the idea that having multiple income streams is a good thing. Because at the end of the day, if you have multiple crappy income streams, you just have crappy income.
Yeah.
To put it bluntly. I mean, if I was in their shoes, I'd pick the thing that they enjoyed the most, that has the most upside, and focus 100% on that. If I went back to the beginning of my reselling career, I probably wouldn't have jumped onto social media so early. I said I got onto it 6 months to a year. I think that the things like adding in social media, doing other small side businesses has, elongated the time that it's taken me to get me where I am now. I think I could have gotten to where I am now a lot quicker and then maybe added some of these income streams in later. So I definitely think it's best to go all in on one thing until it's performing how you want it.
Yeah.
It's really funny that you say that because Hermosi said something the other day in one of his tweets, and he's like, you'd be better off building a really big business and then talking about it on social media later rather than trying to build the business in conjunction with building a social media.
Yeah.
I think for the exact reasons you're talking about. And I thought about that a lot too. It's like, man, like that's what Hermosi did. Like he basically built this huge thing. He's like, hey, here's how I did that. And everyone's like, who is this? Like how, what, like how is this guy fake or whatever? And I think that's like, it says a lot. What made you make the jump to Amazon? And have you had any issues with your account or anything like that?
Oh yeah. I'm excited to get into this. I've had many issues. No, I've always been, curious about Amazon. You obviously see plenty of people on social media showing big numbers. So, you see the potentials there. As far as pre-owned shoes go, which is the space that I was in prior, there's kind of a cap unless you want to, hire out a bigger team. And I found that it's kind of harder to hire out some of the mundane tasks of when that comes along with pre-owned shoes. There's not a lot of people that want to, clean shoes all day. And then there's not a lot of people that want to buy dirty shoes on eBay. So it's either clean and have the best option on eBay, or there's plenty of eBay accounts that you can find on eBay when you're like searching comps. You'll like click on their store and just kind of you can see people's business model just scrolling through their store. And there's plenty of people that you can see that are like buying pallets. I'm assuming, not prepping anything, just taking pictures, throwing them up at probably the lowest price and moving shoes that way. And at least in my experience, what I was dealing with here in Central Florida is prices increasing on pre-owned shoes. And that's not just at thrift stores. That's at my local flea markets, pretty much across the board. It was harder to get an average cost of $10 for a pair of shoes than it used to be, in conjunction with, at least in my experience, coming off of the 2020 run where reselling was just the easiest thing on the planet and anybody could be successful reselling because everything seemed to sell. Buyers seem to be a little bit more picky on eBay. Some of the stuff that used to sell isn't quite selling. And so I started looking into doing some more retail arbitrage and see if there was any opportunity in that. And come to find out that you can get brand new shoes for basically the same price that you can get pre-owned shoes at the thrift store. The problem was then is finding an avenue to sell them for the most profit. Because I don't know how much retail arbitrage you guys do looking for shoes specifically, but the amount that you can get for a pair of shoes on Amazon is drastically higher than on eBay in most cases. There's plenty of people that do retail arbitrage brand new and sell onto eBay and make a killing, but the margins, at least from my understanding, is a lot slimmer. So looked into Amazon, met a few people locally that sell on Amazon that really just gave me the push to try it out. Went over the ungate process, took me forever. I basically was just submitting Nike ungates like every single day, what felt like for 3 months. Then finally got that and started sending off shipments in January of 2024. So just over a year ago. And pretty much have been just up on the up and up since then. You get addicted with how fast things sell on Amazon, which is different than eBay. Obviously, with eBay, I could sit on things for 90 days. I'd be happy with a average turnaround time of 60 days. And on Amazon, it seems like I have the problem of not having enough inventory in storage because it's all selling quickly, and I needed to see how I can get more shipments out faster. So that seemed like a better problem to try to solve. And like I said, it's addicting seeing those sales roll in. So that's what got us into Amazon.
What are your numbers right now on Amazon?
Last month we did 37K which, there's plenty of people doing a lot more, but that's a big number for us. We were shooting for 30K a month as early as possible this year. We missed the mark in February at like 27, but the last 2 weeks of February, we sent in a really good shipment. I had some very high ROI, very high average sell price items that we shipped in late February. So there was a week period where the previous 31 days was over 40K, but it dipped down to 37 at the end of last month. But hoping to get Amazon to kind of cruise at the 40K a month mark, and eBay to cruise at like the 10K a month mark. 50K a month in gross sales is what we're shooting for on average, and then we'll up that goal soon after that.
And sorry if I already asked something similar to this, but is it you're mostly doing shoes on Amazon? New shoes?
Yeah, I've dabbled into a bunch of other categories because if you excuse me, if you look at it on paper, like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like, you hear guys saying that if you're over leveraged in a single brand, especially speaking of that, with what just happened with Adidas, most of their stuff going gated, like, I can see the problem with being over leveraged in just one brand, one specific category. So like late December, I was practicing OA, going really hard into OA and diversifying into a bunch of different products. And I do want to get back to that point. I do want to be more diversified. But what I saw in December is I saw a huge decrease in sales in January because I put what was working on the back burner, which was retail arbitrage shoes. They were killing it for me, but I got scared, I guess, of the potential downside of it and completely ignored what was working. And I was like, I'm just going to buy a bunch of test products. Half the test products weren't great. Some of them were okay, but it was a lot lower of an ROI. So I needed to spend a lot more money to hit my profit goals to survive. So after, testing that out for like a month and a half, made me realize that I need to just lean into what's working, even if it is a little bit more risky, milk it for what I have. I'd say about 80% of everything that I pick up has a plan B. So if anything did happen on Amazon, and that is the main reason that I'm still very much paying attention to eBay, is just in case anything does happen to Amazon. All the products that I pick up do move on eBay, and I can just move them right back over there. And so yeah, we're just leaning into RA right now. Want to diversify into other things, but I just know shoes, man, and I just find a lot of Nikes. So we're milking it while it lasts.
Well, dude, remind me after the pod, because I have an inventory lab for like 4 years. I used to do like 150K a month in shoes, and I'll just send you every ace and every supplier. I'll just give it to you because I don't sell on Amazon anymore. But you can now. It's not going to be like super simple because they might be 3 years old, but you can see the supplier and then the price I paid and like kind of do the math in your head of like how did he get that or whatever. Because I need to give it to somebody, and that would probably help you a ton. You have an outline that might add 30K a month right to your business.
But, dude, I mean, hey, I'm not going to turn that down.
So how do you deal with returns? That was my next question, because that's why I got out of shoes. Is I was like, dude, the returns are ridiculous. Some of these are really, really bad,
Before we get into that, if you could just take 1 second, like this video, we would greatly appreciate it. It really helps get this out to more people, and that will allow us to get better guests for you guys. And if you are feeling extra generous, leave a comment what you like about it or tag us on social. Thanks so much. Now let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, that is definitely another thing that I was hearing from people that got me scared and wanted me to dive more into diversifying. But at the end of the day, I do get a lot of returns. I turned off the email notification for returns. I think that psychologically that helps a lot. Seeing the refund initiated email multiple times a day is kind of demoralizing. But as you guys know, if someone returns something and they return it in a sellable condition, Amazon just adds it right back to your inventory. And sure, there's probably some slippage that happens, but it seems to me like most of the returns I get added right back to my inventory. I do have some that are shipped back to me, most of which I can just sell onto eBay. I have had like a handful of the horror stories that you hear where I got a pair of shoes returned to me that had coffee spilled all over them. But I mean, in my eyes, it's just part of the business, and that is the one thing that I do think retail arbitrage has going for it is the margins are so beefy that it kind of factors the returns in. I mean, I wouldn't say it's super common, but especially sourcing at places like Ross, you can find shoes for $20 that sell for $100 to $200 on Amazon all day, and having that item returned with a $20 buy cost, like I could sell it 4 times and still be profitable.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I guess, yeah, the context I was thinking is like, yeah, you're slinging 30% ROI. Yeah, you can't afford that stuff. But if you're doing whatever, 500% ROI, yeah, it's irrelevant returns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that. We do bring in some OA, but I try not to deploy too much of my capital to it because we're trying to increase our monthly budget as fast as possible. And the more lower ROI stuff I bring on right now just hurts that goal. So if I bring on lower ROI stuff, it's got to be stuff that sells like super quick. Otherwise, I'm just sticking to the higher ROI retail finds.
Yeah, makes sense.
What do you mind sharing what your ROI kind of targets are?
Yeah, I mean, in the app that I use to scan stuff and look stuff up, I mean, I have a minimum ROI set of 45%, but I'd say most of the stuff I find is higher than that. Most of the stuff that I pick up, if it's closer to that 45% mark, I kind of take the rank more into consideration. But yeah, minimum. If it's below 45%, I don't really even do much research on it.
Damn. So yeah, I think what a lot of people miss, like too, because when you were saying like what you're selling on Amazon, you're like, oh, it's like not that big of a number. But at those margins, that's a nice chunk. There are people out there doing 100K that are maybe making 10% on that and have like 50K leveraged, which is insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's crazy. I actually think RA is probably one of the better business models at this point. That and like probably brand direct wholesale. And OA is just not what it used to be. So yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm definitely new to the game, and I still have a lot to learn on the OA side of things. A lot to learn everywhere, to be fair. But from my experience, like OA is tough. It seems like everything that I'm picking up, somebody else is. I went through the, like I joined leads lists, I joined Bolo groups, and I joined them with the realization that a lot of people are going to be buying these leads. It might take a little longer for them to hit the selling point that I'd be happy with. And I understand that, but it gets frustrating over time. So back in December, which is what I was mentioning earlier, I got out of all of those groups and I was like, I'm just going to figure out how to source myself. And I did manual sourcing. I felt like I was finding a ton of products, but just ran into all the issues that I'm sure you hear. Like, even though I'm finding it, it seems like 10 other people have the keep alert set for that same product. And it's like, once I'm buying it, it seems like a few other people are also buying it. And there was a few hits, few things that worked out, but it seemed to me at least that there was a lot less strikeouts in RA. Like, my batting average is a lot higher.
Do you have plans to scale it in the future? And that's what everybody's bottleneck, right? It's like scaling the RA thing, or do you even want to really scale it that high?
Yeah, I definitely do. Kind of in conjunction with what we talked about with the whole YouTube thing. All of this was brought to my attention, my wife's attention when we got pregnant and we needed to figure out what life was going to be like with a child. And I came to the realization that over the past like 7 years, I've just built a glorified job and I need to figure out how to not be working so many hours. And so that was one of the attractive things to Amazon. I think that we have a good rhythm right now. We're not doing like crazy numbers on Amazon by any means, but we also don't live a super lavish lifestyle. So the profit has been pretty good lately. So we're looking into, I think the first thing that we're going to do is have somebody come on hourly to like help prep shipments, because one bottleneck is getting stuff to Amazon faster. I'd love to be sending out 2-3 shipments a week. Right now we're doing one. The goal is to free up some of my time. I think the first option is to hire on an hourly employee to take care of the back end stuff. Just today, actually, I went and toured technically a warehouse. If you guys know about Ready Space, it's kind of like a shared warehouse.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, so I went and looked at that. I think we're going to move into one of those in like a 400 square foot warehouse space. It's relatively inexpensive, and then have somebody work out of there so I can go source more often. And I know many people in the same area as me that resell, that I've been just planting seeds for the past like 6 months. Like, hey, you want to just stop worrying about all the back end stuff and just source for me. So I got one lead for that. So I might have one person come on and help, but over the next, year or so, I do want to have at least one person helping me source and then one person running the back end so I can spend more time with my kid, essentially.
Yeah. That's the key, right? Just like hire a bunch of people throughout, not just at your place, but if you can get them from different places.
Sure.
It's like hard to like conceptualize how you would do all that. It seems probably like a big deal, but it's just like one step at a time. Get the person that preps your stuff, get the person that sources the stuff, and then it all falls into place over time.
Yeah, 100%.
Have you ever thought about going like the prep center route?
Yeah, I used the prep center for some OA stuff, but I wasn't buying enough OA. Like I kind of felt like it was because it had a minimum, obviously, and I kind of felt like I was trying to hit that minimum instead of just trying to source good products. Since I was focusing so much on RA, OA was just an afterthought. If I come across something, which I would occasionally would, and I'd say, oh, if I send this to the prep center, I'm not paying the sales tax, so it just makes sense. It's basically free. But I've decided, at least for the time being, since the OA side of the business is so small and RA is working, that it's just one of those things that I cut out some of the fat that I cut off to just find my lane before I start branching out.
I want to talk about some stories on these shoe things, because I was looking through your YouTube and there seems to be some like pretty expensive shoes you found and stuff like that. So I want to get into some of these cool stories. What's the most expensive shoe you've ever found? I'll start with there.
Most expensive. I wish I had some like crazy, like multi-$1,000 pair of shoes, but I don't. I think that the most expensive pair of shoes that I found at a thrift store was like a pair of Christian Louboutins that I paid $18 for, and they sold for $475.
That's pretty good.
And then I found some Scarpa mountaineering boots. I can't remember how much I paid for them, but they sold for $450. Some Alden Chukka boots I've sold for $400. I got those for less than $20. And then the stuff that really performs on YouTube, at least shorts wise, like the hype sneakers, like I found some, they aren't the Kobe Grinches, but the Kobe mentality Grinches. I found those for, I want to say $15 or something like that. That was like a $250 or $300 sell. I feel like I've found a bunch of stuff that's worth about like $200 to $500, but nothing that's like so far out of that it's a crazy story to tell.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something like some $3,000 sneaker, like a Yeezy just sitting up there. No,
still waiting for that, man.
Well, what about crazy stories? You got any, like, I know a lot of these thrift stories, like people run into like crazy things that happen or stuff like that. So do you have anything on that side of things, like something interesting that you like couldn't believe happened?
Yeah. So the one thing that comes to my mind every time I get asked this is, this happened like years ago. This is like shortly after I even started posting on social media. I used to live in a small town in Kansas called Coffeyville, and I moved to Orlando shortly after high school. No specific reason, it's a completely separate story. Just wanted to get out of Kansas. And then I started reselling. It was going good for a few months, and then this sale comes in. It was a pair of Air Max Theas, some just like $35 random sell. But when I went to print the shipping label, it caught my eye because I have no idea who this person is, but whoever they are, they live in the house that I grew up in, and they purchased something from me on eBay while I was living in Orlando. And I immediately text my parents. I'm like, do you know who this person is? And they're like, no, we have no idea who this person is. And Sure enough, they live at the house that I lived in from literally birth until I think we moved when I was like 14 years old, and they somehow managed to buy something for me on eBay.
That is weird.
Yeah.
What are the odds of that happening?
Insanely low odds. It was crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, I don't think there's anything too crazy.
Nothing. No, you ever run into any crazy situations when you're out like thrifting stuff or garage sales or anything? Did anybody get mad at you?
I got a story for you. All right. So I went to when I was trying to pump out more YouTube videos and just try to grow the YouTube channel. The Goodwill bins in Orlando is just such a hot topic. Like people are so like gatekeepy, the ones that source there. They don't want anybody to know about it, even though it's on Google Maps. And anytime you like even snap a picture of something, like management gets annoyed. The customers will report you if they see it. Like it's crazy. I don't ever source there, but I hear all these stories from my buddy who does source there quite often. But I was thinking, I was like, why don't I just make a YouTube video there? Like, how hard would it be to record an entire YouTube video at the Goodwill bins? I obviously knew that I couldn't just walk in there with a camera. So I don't think I emailed. I messaged on Instagram, Goodwill Central Florida. And I was like, hey, who can I talk to about getting permission to film at your bins location? I think it would be a good marketing opportunity for both of us. I get content, you guys get marketing. And I kind of pitched it to them, and they agreed. And so I had to meet this lady like shortly after open, this lady from corporate, so she could come down there and tell the manager that I had permission to film and all the employees that it was okay. What she didn't do was tell all the customers that it was okay to film. And man, I didn't even want to post this video. I didn't include the altercation in the video because I didn't really want to get clicks from something like that. I just wanted to make a good video. But I'm just, I wasn't there looking for clothes, but I'm sure you guys know how the Goodwill bins work. Like they bring out one row of bins and the shoes are all the way at the end. So you got to wait for all the clothes to get rolled out, and then they finally roll out the shoes, which is the only reason I was there. So I'm waiting around for like 4 hours because I had to meet this lady at open. And every time they roll out a new bin of clothes, I have no idea what I'm looking at, but I'm just kind of like picking stuff up and just whatever. I'm not even I'm half paying attention to what I'm doing. And then this kid on the other side of the bins is just like, why the F are you recording? And just like causes a huge scene and just turns down. He's like, do you want him recording? No. Do you want him recording? No. Do you want him recording? No. And I'm just like, I didn't even know what to do. I froze up. I was just like, I just kind of walked away from the situation. But from there on, it just kept escalating. This guy was so upset, went and complained to the manager. The manager's like, he's got permission. And it was just a whole thing. I felt like nobody in that building wanted me there. It was the most uncomfortable place I've ever been in my life.
Why do you think that was? You think they were mad at you for reselling, or was he maybe another reseller and he's like, he's going to take my stuff?
There's multiple reasons. I think one reason is because he's a reseller and he doesn't want other people going to the bins. But when they complain to the managers, and I'm kind of hesitant to talk about this, so if you guys want to cut this out, it's perfectly fine. But when they came to me and complained to me, the manager told me this directly, is that some of the individuals that source at our local bins aren't here legally. So they don't want any attention brought to the fact of who they are and what they're doing. And I'm trying to talk to this lady. I'm like, who's going to see this random person's face in my YouTube video? The camera's pointed down. It's just what I'm finding. I'm not here to get anybody in trouble. But when the people that look for vintage at the bins go to complain about people filming, it's always that route that they take in the complaint. And that was what the manager came to me with as like a serious reason as to why I can't film. But I don't think that, I think it's really just more about them not wanting competition at the bins. Yeah.
That's crazy. I bet you were shocked to even hear that. Like that's a crazy reason.
Of course I was, especially hearing it from like the manager. I'm just like, I mean, I get it, but I don't know what my YouTube channel is going to affect anything.
Yeah, that's very weird.
That's insane. The Goodwill bins. Have you ever been to the bins, Drew?
I have not. I'm from West Virginia, man, so we didn't have bins. We barely had Goodwills there.
There's a couple in Pennsylvania, and I went maybe 3 times. The first time I went, it was like a snow day and work was canceled back when there wasn't like telework or whatever. And I went in and I was selling books then. I scanned a couple. I was like, oh, this is great. Like no one's here, whatever. Next time I go, there's some guy, he has about like 5 or 6 carts of books, like shopping carts. And I'm like, damn, like this guy, like, cleaned it out. Like, I'm not even going to bother with this. Go back the next time, the guy has the same cart of books. I was like, how is this guy getting so many books? Well, it turns out he's filling up the carts of books and then scanning them and then throwing them back into the bin. So I was like, oh, so this guy's not getting anything, but it's like, I don't really feel like competing with him. And like the Goodwill bins, it's like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's going to sound bad, but it's like, just imagine like Black Friday and everyone's like picking through like trash. Basically. Like it's this huge like trough of just black garbage bags, like one shoe, like water bottles, like it's not for me. So like after the third time, or I went back, saw that kids are running around everywhere. People are like kind of bumping and giving like dirt. It's absolutely insane. And then the last time I went, I didn't really understand the process. And then it was like books or something. They're like, oh, the new books are coming out. And I was like, what the hell does that even mean? The new books are coming out. And so like it's like this like whole production. Like a manager comes, it's like all covered up. They like take out the old books, they put all these things, and you can't see anything. And then they like have literally like dividers you have to stand behind. And the manager like literally pulls off one at a time, and then like 50, 60 people just run to like, and they start like pick. It's absolutely insane. Yeah. And I was like, this is not for me. And I've never been back since.
Yeah, it's not for me either. The thing that the guy was doing with the books is what they do with the clothes and the shoes here too. It's when you're standing in line for the new drop, Goodwill doesn't let you have a shopping cart in line, just to like help with the flow of people. And so the workaround is people bring laundry hampers, like the collapsible ones. So everybody in line's got a laundry hamper, and they run to their section, and they just take as much as they can and filter it into the laundry hamper, and then go through it and throw back everything that they don't want. It's crazy.
Dude, they got to do a documentary on this. I couldn't imagine.
I'm saying.
I mean, I don't want to act like I'm better than anybody, but I really feel like if I went there, I'd be like, I've got to get the hell out of here, man. That would scare me to death. Like this sounds like some Hunger Games stuff that you guys are talking about. The Goodwill.
Yeah, there's one other story that comes to mind. I was scanning books and I brought my girlfriend with me, and we were scanning them, and some lady there was like, she was obviously pissed that we were there like scanning books. So like I'm standing here, my girlfriend's standing there, and for whatever reason, the lady is like scanning them, and if it's no good, like basically throwing them, and it's hitting the bin like right before my girlfriend. She's literally like chucking books at her without like really throwing books at her. And I was like, this lady was probably like in her 50s or 60s. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And so like I was like, let's just get out of here. But it was like, what? I was like, this is so ridiculous.
Yeah,
like unreal.
So you said you just had a kid. Do you work with your wife with the business, or does she work individually?
I mean, she works in the business. Since our kid's been here, she hasn't. But before late pregnancy, she was very much involved. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, sorry, that was way off topic, but I wanted to keep it on my head. But
no, you're good. You're good.
So how does that work? I always like to ask that because I'm like that's kind of a lot of people's dream is like be in business with the couple or whatever. So, yeah, have you faced any hardships there? Is it it's like smooth process?
It's pretty smooth. I think that moving forward, it's going to be a lot different. I don't think she's going to have as much of an involvement. She's lately been selling on Poshmark again because she resold before I even met her.
Oh.
So now that she has like a little bit of free time during the day, because our daughter's starting to be okay with like sitting in a little bouncer and not on somebody at all times. She's been, listing stuff on Poshmark, and I think moving forward, she's just going to kind of do her own thing as a little hobby. And then I'll run the business. And as we talked about earlier, outsource some of the stuff that she used to take care of.
Did you meet her like through reselling, or did you just randomly meet a girl that
I
happened
did.
to resell? Okay. I was about to say the odds of that are
Wow.
super low too. If you,
Yeah. No, we met on Instagram.
oh,
That's one reason you should put out content.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Wow.
So you just lived near the same area? Like, walk through that story. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, so she lived in Bradenton, which is about 2.5 hours away from Orlando. And we followed each other for a little bit, exchanged messages here and there. I kind of gave her a hard time. Like, she'd always message me. I'd message back a few times, then I'd not reply. Because like when I was at the time, I was like, this girl's 2.5 hours away. I don't want to drive all the way over there. But we ended up meeting up for dinner one night in Lakeland, which is about halfway between us, and just hit it off, man. We've been together ever since. Now we got a kid.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's like that's a real reselling love story there. I've never heard that before. That's pretty cool. Because there's not a lot of girls that do this. So the fact you found one is like,
hey, you'd be surprised, man. The Poshmark community is pretty intense. Yeah, there's a lot of girls that sell on Poshmark.
I didn't even think about that. That's probably the big majority even sell there, and Macari too. I don't know if that's still big, but yeah, that's pretty cool. What else you got, John?
Did you DM her or did she DM you?
She DM'd me first.
Yeah, that helps.
I'll make sure that she remembers that.
What'd she say? Was she like, "Oh, I really like your content"? Or
man, she she took the approach of, hey, me and my friend do this video series on Instagram. They used to go to what are they called? The Amazon return stores. It's like $7 on Thursday and then $6 on Friday, and then on the last day it's $1, and then they're closed and they refresh all the inventory. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they're like your big like bin store kind of
thing.
Yeah,
bin store. Yeah. So they used to do this series on Instagram where they'd go on dollar day and they'd find just brown boxes that they didn't know what was in the boxes. And they'd buy them without checking, and then they'd open the boxes in the car. So she DM'd me and she's like, hey, do you want to be part of this video? And I was like, sure, yeah, I'll come collaborate with you guys. And that was her foot in the door.
Did you have more followers than her at the time, or was she trying to get your followers?
Honestly, I think that she had more followers than I did at the time.
Ooh.
Yeah, not by much. It was pretty neck and neck, but I think she did have more.
That's funny. Let's see, what else we have here. Johnny, you got anything else?
John was asking earlier if I have any issues with Amazon so far. I forgot to.
Yeah. Talk on that.
Yeah,
we've talked about that so many times that I just forget that that's a topic people want to hear about. So
yeah, man. I've been selling on Amazon for such a short period of time, and I've already got a Section 3 under my belt.
Oh,
yeah. So it happened. This is Amazon for you. It happened literally while we were at the hospital for the birth of our kid. I didn't even realize it at the time because I wasn't really paying attention to my communications. And I had like $8,000 in my pending balance. And then I had a $0 payout day. And I was like, that's frustrating. Why am I not getting paid today? And the next day, a higher number in my pending balance, still $0. And then the next day, same thing. And it racked up to like 12 grand. I'm like, why am I not getting payouts? So I message an Amazon support agent, and then they're like, dude, you got a Section 3 on your account. I'm like, for what? And he's like, go to this page. And I didn't even know how all this worked because my big focus was just sending stuff into Amazon, try to make money, squeeze the money man as much as I could, and not pay attention to the back end stuff. So I dig into it, and I see this communication that I got while we were at the hospital that I missed that said that you've got a Section 3. We suspect inauthenticity for this pair of Crocs that you sold. And I was just like, why wasn't this an IA claim, an inauthentic claim? Because I've gotten a few of those. Those usually aren't a problem. But whatever. It said that I needed to hop on a video interview. And so I didn't really know what to expect with this. And this was the most stressful video interview I've ever done in my life because I'm not talking to somebody. It's just me being recorded. I don't see anybody on the screen. They're just asking me questions and just hounding every little thing about my Amazon business. And my Amazon account is fairly old because when I first got started reselling, like way back in probably 2018 is when I made my account. I was selling books on Amazon. And at the time I was doing like all of my reselling with a business partner. Like we were just going to thrifts, kind of just pooling our money. Stupid idea. I don't recommend it, but we are just going at it together. And so he's listing off all these questions and he's like, do you know a Carlos? And my heart just sinks because I've heard all these stories about people getting their Amazon account banned for stupid reasons. And I'm like, yeah, he had access to the account like 8 years ago, 7 years ago, old business partner. And I guess that wasn't an issue. Then he's asking me about my business addresses because I don't want my home address being forward facing. So I use this like PO box service that gives you a street address. And he's like, what is this? This is like an office. And he's just like hounding every single thing. Like, what is this, this application that you gave permission to on your account? I'm just like, this is a repricer. Like I still at the time didn't really know like what's allowed, what you should like avoid, like all this stuff. I didn't have an attorney on retainer, which I didn't even know was something you needed to have. Now I do, so I wouldn't be worried about it so much. But like he's asking all these questions, they're so stressful. And then he's just like, okay, we hang up the call, and he's like, and then it's telling me that I need to provide documentation about proof of authenticity and all this. So I just go on ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, can you write me a cover letter? It writes me a cover letter, and I ask it a few questions on how to beat a Section 3, and it's giving me advice. And so I put together this PDF and send it over. And luckily, a few days later, I got my account back. But being a new seller and not really digging into the nitty gritty of all the back end stuff of Amazon, just caring about selling more on Amazon, it was so scary. I thought I was losing my Amazon account. All the inventory I had there, the $10,000+ I had tied up, I was like, crap. But we got it taken care of.
Was it quick? How fast did you get it taken care of?
I think after I submitted the PDF, it was like 2 days. Okay. So it was quick.
Wow, that's quick. And you use ChatGPT to do the whole thing?
ChatGPT to do the whole thing.
That's insane.
Yeah.
People pay like these lawyers like $3, $4, or $5,000.
That
to handle these.
I heard. So if there's a lawyer listening, I'm sorry that I just outed ChatGPT, but it worked for me.
Yeah, I bet it could work for most people. I didn't even really think about that. Of just like you could probably just ask AI to do the same thing you would pay a lawyer to, and they even probably would have better answers, so they can scour the whole internet for things that have worked.
Yeah, I love ChatGPT, guys. I seriously, anything that is just like a stupid fee that you pay. Like I used ChatGPT to do my taxes last year. I was just like, this is my first. I've just always done taxes myself. I'm just like a numbers nerd. Like it doesn't bother me. But I've always just been a single member LLC or a sole proprietor. But last year we filed taxes as an S corp. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I was just like, "Hey, ChatGPT, how do I file taxes as an S corp?" And it's just like, "This is the documents you need to fill out. This. Just walk me through it." It was simple.
I didn't even know you could. I didn't think about that. That was I pay someone a ton of money to do that, and I probably could just do it that way.
Well, I don't necessarily recommend it, but it's what I did.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's insane. Wow. Yeah, because I guess I do use ChatGPT a lot. I never really thought about, because like if you got a rejection from Amazon in your Section 3, you probably be like, all right, this is what Amazon said. Like write the argument against this, and it probably just spit something out. That's insane.
Yeah, and I learned this, learned that I should start using ChatGPT more because I paid a CPA $300 for a 1 hour session last year, I think, before I decided to take the S corp election. Like I wanted to talk to somebody and figure out like if that was the right move. And I get on this call that I already paid for, and this lady's just talking to me about stuff that I already know. She's just like just walking me through just basic business information. She's looking at my my profit and loss statement, my balance sheet, and she's like, "Last year you didn't write off food. Why don't you write off more food?" I'm like, "Because I don't have business meals." And she's like, "Take your wife out to dinner sometimes and call it a business meal." I'm like, "That's sure, that's decent advice. That's going to save me a few bucks on my tax bill, but I'm talking to you about like, do I need an S corp?" she just never really gave me an answer. She's like, you need to sell your car to your business for these tax savings. I'm just like, cool, I'll talk to you about that next time. But do I need an S corp or what do I need to do here? She never really gave me an answer. And I got off the call with her and I was just like, I just wasted $300. So I go over to ChatGPT and I was just like, what qualifications or what do you recommend the sales threshold for a business to need a S corp? And then it was just like, it asked me a few follow-up questions and gave me more information within 3 prompts than I got using $300 in an hour with an actual CPA. So yeah, ChatGPT's been my best friend ever since then.
That's probably the most powerful way to use ChatGPT is like, it's like, should I get an S corp? Ask me questions one by one to determine what, and then like let it just like walk you through. I've used it to do that so many times, and it's like so helpful.
And it remembers everything that you've said to it. So it like builds out a profile. It remembers everything that you've inputted. So like previous conversations that have nothing to do with your current conversation, like it takes that into effect. It's crazy.
Have you tried Grok, the Twitter one?
I have not.
That one's I've switched between them, but Grok I found is even better because it doesn't have all the restraints. Like, you know, sometimes ChatGPT like won't give you answers because it's like programmed not to. Grok's pretty much like free for all. Now it'll still like push back unless you're asking it something crazy, which you shouldn't be anyways. But I found that it gives better answers, and the app on the phone's way smoother. You can just set it up and talk to it like really, really easy. And it'll talk
GROK?
Yeah, GROK. If you have to pay for Twitter to get the premium, but it's like $7 a month to pay for Twitter. So yeah,
gotcha.
I've tried Cloud, ChatGPT, and Grok's the best, I think. And you can even it's pretty cool. You can even like pick what personalities. You can pick like a super sarcastic one. It'll cuss at you and all this different stuff, which is pretty funny. You can't really get any information because it's just like making fun of you the whole time. But the fact that it can do that is pretty funny. And then it has like I don't know, a bunch of different ones. Teachers, like you can just ask somebody, it'll teach you like a whole topic. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yep. Well, anything else, John?
I have one last thing. So I have a question about, did you make shoe trees?
Yes, I did.
What was that experience like? Like, what made you do that? Because I remember seeing them and I was like, wow, that's like a great idea. Like, how did that even come to be?
Yeah, so going back to social media, this is like an unpopular thing to say from people that make content, but I don't necessarily think I had this opinion early on when I was making social media content, but the more social media content I made, and just having like an entrepreneurial mindset, and I just evolved into having the lens of how can I make this worth my time, essentially. Like, how can I monetize social media without having millions of followers and relying on ad revenue from like YouTube, and TikTok wasn't even a thing at the time, or at least their creator program wasn't a thing at the time. So I was just looking at ways to monetize Instagram, and most people go the route of like selling a course, something along those lines. I was just like, what am I selling already that I could just sell myself? And I just went into my Amazon affiliate dashboard and just looked at all the things that I had been affiliating. And shoe trees was super popular because I have like multiple videos that's like how to photograph shoes, and I talk about shoe trees. And I'm like, why don't I just make branded shoe trees? It's better than making like a Dealing with Dalton t-shirt. Nobody wants to wear a t-shirt with my face on it, but I can make something that's like has a use case, and it's a inexpensive thing. Like anybody can afford it. Anybody that's just getting started reselling can afford to spend $10 on a set of shoe trees. So I just got in contact with a manufacturer, bought way too many of them because they had a massive MOQ for customized items. So bought way too many. I'm almost sold out now. It's been probably 2 years, but the margin on them was enough that I paid for the purchase pretty fairly early, I'd say. So everything that rolls in now is just profit. I no longer sell on Shopify, because that's just one of the pieces of fat that got cut whenever I was, dialing in the business. I didn't want to pay $40 a month for Shopify. So now I just sell them on eBay, which has actually been giving me such a big headache, because I'm selling like the exact same shoe trees as all of my competitors, I even have like the more premium model, like they're made out of better material, they're shaped better, they last longer. Like I tested a bunch of different ones, and I think that I have the best of its type on the market. But I've gotten like 3 INADs on them from people saying that they're too small. And I'm just like, they fit men's 6 to 12, and apparently they don't fit men's 12 good enough for eBay buyers. I never ran into this problem until literally the past few months when I've just been trying to sell them on eBay. But completely off topic. But yeah, I just private labeled and sold to my audience.
That's sweet. Oh yeah, you don't. Yeah. How many of you sold, or can you say that?
Yeah, so I bought 4,000 individual units.
Dang.
Wow.
My most popular bundle, I guess, was just a large and a small. So I sold a men's 6 to 12 as well as a women's 5 to or women's 4 to 10. So there was like a women's model and a men's model. And most of my sales came from the bundle of 2. So technically, if I sold all of them in bundles, I only had 2,000 units, and I probably have like 200 left, if that.
Wow.
I've been meaning to just post on Instagram and just say, anybody want a bundle of like 20 for like $25? I'm just trying to get rid of them at this point. It was fun, but a lot of work.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody thinking about monetizing like what they have like that. That's interesting because usually you always go digital products. I've never thought of somebody being like, I'm going to provide a use case physical product, and that's a very niche one, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking about starting a thermal label company, because I was doing what I just told you. I was scrolling through my affiliates, and I use a Rollo. I always have. Love Rollo. Have a video reviewing the Rollo, and in the past 2 years that I've had the video up, it's done over 6 figures in sales of Rollo products. And I'm just like, what if I sold 6 figures of my own Rollo? You know, I don't have time for this one, but maybe one day.
I wonder how that's probably super complicated because that's like tech and software a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Have to have a whole like support channel. This is just like a dream. Maybe I'll get to it one day.
Dude, 6 figures of revenue generated off that is crazy.
Yeah. And 90% of it is from one single YouTube video. So like if I made multiple YouTube videos on it, like that's multiple at bats to rank in different search terms, different algorithms, like the money's there. Like we were talking about, if social media is a viable option, like just make a bunch of review videos for things on, and it's super popular with the Amazon influencer program now, but like YouTube's still underrated. Like if you rank a good video, a good review video on YouTube, it just prints money. Like that video makes me like $300 a month ever since I posted it.
Wow, man, that might be the gap in the market. Is instead of people making softwares and all that stuff, you create the printer, because there's only a few brands that your competition is just these big brands. If you had like a niche reseller one, you probably dominate the entire market. And I'm sure no one's done that. Guarantee it.
Have a cool like small business story to sell people. Like it's over.
I've never even thought about that before. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's your idea, man. One time you'll have to do that. One day you've got to do that. That seems like a massive gap.
Or somebody listening,
you know,
if somebody listening thinks that idea, just bring me on.
Yeah, that's sweet. What were you saying, John? Sorry.
No, that's a really good idea too, because like I think that's the big like where Rollo misses. They're like for everyone. You would be like for resellers, and you already have a community. And then, you know, a lot of people would want to support you or whatever because like you've helped them in the past. So it's like a really great kind of market fit there.
Yeah.
Well, dude, any final words for the guests? It was great talking to you today. We're reaching over an hour, so
I don't have necessarily anything to share, but I definitely appreciate you guys having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Definitely.
All right, where can people find you?
Dealing with Dalton on Instagram, YouTube,
cool
TikTok, but Instagram and YouTube are the main 2.
All right, guys, go follow Dalton. Thanks for being here, man. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Peace.
Peace.
See ya.
if you enjoyed this episode and know someone else that would enjoy this episode, if you could send them this episode, literally just copy and paste a link, send them on Instagram DM. Everyone loves to network. This is a great way to do it, a very easy way. It helps grow the podcast and get better guests. So the more the podcast gets shared, the more views we get, the better guests we could get for you. We would really, really appreciate it. And tag us on social media and we will share it as well.